Ladies and gentlemen, if you've ever wondered why some women never have to chase, never have to beg, and yet somehow he can't stop thinking about them, this is for you. It's not because they're louder, prettier, or trying harder. It's because of 3 quiet behaviors that rewire how a man feels when he's around them. Behaviors that make him crave your presence, miss you when you're gone, and choose you without pressure. Stay with me, because once you understand this, you'll never approach love the same way again. There is a quiet kind of power that doesn't shout, doesn't chase, and doesn't beg for attention. It's the kind of power that pulls someone closer without them fully realizing why. And when it comes to attraction, especially the kind that lasts, it's never about manipulation or playing games. It's about the behaviors that make someone feel more alive, more seen, and more connected when they're with you than when they're anywhere else. The first beautiful behavior is emotional presence. Not emotional intensity, not drama, not over-explaining your feelings every 5 minutes, but true presence. This is the ability to be fully in the moment with him. When he's talking, you're not half listening while planning what you'll say next. You're not scrolling, not distracted, not trying to impress. You're actually there. You respond to what he says, not just with words, but with energy. You ask questions that show curiosity, not interrogation. You allow silence without rushing to fill it. Emotional presence makes him feel understood without being analyzed, accepted without being judged. And here's the magic of it. Most people don't feel deeply heard in their daily lives. When you offer that rare space where he can be himself without performance, his nervous system relaxes around you. He starts to associate you with peace, clarity, and safety. That's addictive. Because when the world feels loud and demanding, he knows that with you, he can just be. And the more he experiences that calm connection, the more his mind begins to crave it. The second beautiful behavior is maintaining your own sense of self. This is where attraction either grows or quietly dies. There is nothing magnetic about disappearing into someone else's life. When you keep your passions, your routines, your friendships, and your personal goals alive, you send a powerful message without ever saying it out loud. I choose you, but I don't need you to complete me. That choice is what makes him lean in. When your happiness doesn't depend on his constant validation, he feels freedom rather than pressure. He doesn't feel like he's responsible for your emotional stability. Instead, he feels inspired to be part of your already full life. Independence creates desire because it introduces uncertainty in the best way. He knows you enjoy him, but he also knows your world won't collapse if he steps away. That balance keeps him engaged. It makes time with you feel special rather than obligatory, and over time he starts to admire you not just as a partner, but as a person. Admiration is a cornerstone of lasting attraction. Without it, passion fades. With it, attachment deepens. The third beautiful behavior is warmth paired with boundaries. This combination is incredibly powerful because it communicates both openness and self-respect. Warmth is your kindness, your affection, your ability to make him feel appreciated. It's the way you smile when he walks into a room, the way you acknowledge his efforts, the way you celebrate his wins without competing with them. Warmth makes him feel good about who he is when he's with you. But boundaries are what make that warmth meaningful. Boundaries are the moments you say no without guilt. The moments you don't overextend yourself just to keep him happy. The moments you express your needs calmly instead of swallowing them to avoid conflict. Boundaries show that your kindness isn't desperate or conditional. It's a choice. And that choice carries weight. When a man feels that your affection is given freely but not cheaply, he values it more. He knows it's not available to just anyone. He understands that being close to you is a privilege, not an entitlement. This creates respect, and respect fuels attraction far more than people realize. When these 3 behaviors come together, something powerful happens. He doesn't feel chased, but he feels wanted. He doesn't feel controlled, but he feels connected. He doesn't feel responsible for your happiness, but he feels happier around you. And slowly, subtly, you become part of his emotional landscape. He starts to think of you when something good happens. He wants to tell you first. He seeks your opinion not because he has to, but because it matters to him. That's not obsession born out of insecurity. That's attachment built on positive association. It's important to understand that addiction in this sense isn't about dependency. It's about preference. He prefers the way he feels when he's with you. He prefers the conversations, the emotional rhythm, the balance of closeness and space. And preference is built through consistent experiences, not grand gestures. It's built when you show up as yourself, fully and unapologetically, while still allowing him the space to show up as himself too. So many people believe they need to do more to be loved. Talk more, give more, explain more. But often, the most powerful thing you can do is less chasing, less overthinking, less trying to prove your worth. When you focus on how you show up rather than how he reacts, everything shifts. You stop performing for affection and start attracting it naturally. And that's when connection stops feeling forced and starts feeling inevitable. The beauty of these behaviors is that they don't just make someone else more drawn to you. They make you feel more grounded, more confident, and more at peace in yourself. You're no longer waiting for someone to choose you to feel valuable. You're choosing yourself first. And paradoxically, that self-choice is what makes someone else want to choose you too. You begin to move through relationships with a different energy. Instead of asking, am I enough? You start asking, is this right for me? And that subtle shift changes everything. Because when you are rooted in your own worth, your presence feels different. Your laughter is lighter. Your silence is calmer. Your words carry less urgency and more intention. And he feels that. People always feel when someone is no longer trying to convince them of their value, but simply expressing it through how they live. As this dynamic unfolds, he starts to experience you as a place of emotional regulation. Not because you solve his problems, but because being with you reminds him of who he is when he's at his best. You don't shame him for his flaws or rush him through his struggles. You don't try to fix him. You allow him the dignity of his own growth. And that dignity is rare. Most people either pressure or abandon when things get uncomfortable. When you remain grounded and compassionate without losing yourself, he learns that closeness doesn't mean losing freedom. It means gaining support. There's also something incredibly powerful about how you respond when things don't go perfectly, when plans change, when communication is imperfect, when misunderstandings happen. Your response matters more than the situation itself. You don't explode, but you also don't minimize your feelings. You express them clearly, calmly, and honestly. This teaches him that emotional honesty with you is safe. Over time, he starts opening doors he's kept closed for years. Not because you demanded access, but because your consistency earned his trust. Trust is built in moments that seem small on the surface. It's built when you keep your word, when you don't punish vulnerability, when you don't weaponize his honesty during arguments, when you choose curiosity over accusation. These moments stack up quietly, and one day he realizes that you are someone he doesn't have to protect himself from. That realization deepens attachment faster than any dramatic declaration ever could. At the same time, you don't abandon your standards to keep that closeness. You don't tolerate disrespect just to preserve connection. If something doesn't feel right, you address it. Not with blame, but with clarity. You let him know what works for you and what doesn't. And here's what's fascinating. Healthy men don't run from boundaries. They relax into them. Boundaries give structure to intimacy. They let him know where he stands and what it takes to stay close to you. That clarity builds security, and security fuels desire. Another layer of this connection is playfulness, not forced humor or constant joking, but lightness, the ability to enjoy the moment without overanalyzing it. You allow joy to exist without attaching it to outcomes. You laugh because something is funny, not because you want approval. You tease gently without trying to dominate or impress. Playfulness reminds him that connection doesn't always have to be heavy or serious. to be meaningful. It creates memories that feel effortless. And effortlessness is something people crave deeply in a world that feels demanding. As he spends more time with you, he notices that you don't rush emotional milestones. You're not constantly asking where things are going or what everything means. You're present with what is. This doesn't mean you don't care about the future. It means you trust that the future will reveal itself through consistent action, not pressure. That patience removes fear. It allows attraction to unfold naturally instead of being forced into timelines that create resistance. What truly makes this dynamic powerful is that it doesn't rely on pretending to be someone else. There's no mask to maintain, no strategy to constantly remember. You're not acting mysterious, withholding affection as a tactic. You're simply aligned with yourself. And alignment is magnetic. When your words, actions and values match, people feel safe investing in you because they know what they're getting. Over time, he begins to associate you with emotional nourishment. After spending time together, he feels energized rather than drained, seen rather than evaluated, calm rather than anxious. Those emotional after effects matter more than the moments themselves, because long after the conversation ends or the date is over, the feeling remains. And the human brain is wired to seek out environments where it feels good. That's how attachment forms without force. You also allow him to miss you, not by playing games, but by having a full life that doesn't revolve around constant availability. Space isn't absence, it's breathing room. When you don't overfill every gap, his mind has room to wander toward you. He starts replaying moments, conversations, the sound of your voice. Desire grows in the space between interactions, not just in the interactions themselves. Importantly, you don't measure your worth by his reactions on any given day. If he's distant, you don't panic. If he's quiet, you don't assume rejection. You stay anchored. That emotional steadiness is incredibly grounding for someone else. It shows maturity, self-trust, and confidence. And confidence that isn't loud or performative, but calm and embodied, is deeply attractive. As the connection deepens, he feels a growing sense of emotional investment. Not because he's afraid of losing you, but because he values what he has with you. He starts showing up more consistently. He becomes more intentional. Not because you demanded it, but because the relationship feels worth protecting. That's the difference between attachment built on fear and attachment built on appreciation. All of this creates a bond that feels natural rather than forced. He doesn't feel trapped, but he feels connected. He doesn't feel obligated, but he feels drawn. And you don't feel like you're constantly proving your worth. You feel chosen, not because you beg to be, but because who you are made that choice easy. In this space, love stops being something you chase and starts being something that meets you where you stand.